Thank you for listening to the Golden Hour Drip podcast with me, Logan Lee Miller. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Golden Hour Drip podcast. I'm your host, Logan Lee Miller. Happy Friday. It's been a long one. It's also the last Friday of May. I cannot believe June is just around the corner. I feel like I just turned 26 and now it's like, poof, we're already 1 month kinda of being 26. I feel like, I don't know, like my brain definitely has developed even more. They say your frontal cortex completely develops at 25, but I feel like I got a reboot this past birthday where my brain is firing even better than before. And I seriously, I think it's a system update. My frontal cortex might have been fully developed as of last year, but this year it's hitting different. It's hitting better. So I'm very excited for that. Excited for the weekend. This is the first weekend that I don't really have much planned, and usually with blank space, I love to fill it. And this weekend I'm just going to have time to think, like definitely let my mind have some creative time, but also like catch up on like it's not spring cleaning. Technically it's still spring, but it's like get the dust bunnies out of under the bed and clear up some cabinet space. And I haven't washed our washboards, or not washboards, our the boards in the house, footboards, no, wall boards, that's what they're called. So I'm really excited for that. I got a little goosey throat right there, so maybe I'm not ready, but let's get into this episode. It's an Ask the Gals episode. So I have 2 submissions here, and then at the end of the episode, we are gonna do the Ask the Gals little conversation cards. They're so much fun. As always, a little housekeeping. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. It literally costs you nothing to do, and it means the world to me. And it helps me, continue podcasting every single week. I would truly appreciate it. So if you haven't already, please do so. And let's get into it. So the first submission. I applied for a store gift card when I turned 20 for a 0 APR for 18 months. I just checked my statement and it has passed the promotional mark, and the new interest has doubled the balance. I can't afford double. What do I do? Okay, this is not a financial advice podcast at all. I just want to preface that. In my opinion, if you are needing like actual concrete financial advice, I would seek out someone in your area to help you with that. In my opinion only, if your APR has doubled, the promotion period, listen, those are so nice, right? And I feel like we notice these on like truck sales. I don't watch that much cable TV anymore, but whenever I go somewhere where there is cable, it's always like Toyota truck month or whatever, and it's like 0 APR financing for 24 months. And definitely in my previous career, I took note of that because I was trying to put loans together, and so whenever there was big sales, hopefully like some of my loan clients would be purchasing those vehicles, right, and I could finance the money. But you can't beat 0 APR, right? And the only hassle is when they change it to a different percentage, right? And sometimes it can be as high as like 24 APR. And if you don't know what APR is, it's essentially the interest rate. And when that goes up, the additional interest can surpass the original balance. And I know we all struggle with this through student loans going up, housing, if you rent or if you have a mortgage, like rates are rampant and they sometimes suck. And I would advise calling. I would see if they could put you in a different one. Of course, like that might impact your credit by opening another credit card. But a lot of people do that where they transfer the balance. I would try and pay it down as quick as possible. Personally, I absolutely despise debt. It's not something that makes me feel good. I know that like when you're leveraging it, it can be really impactful. Again, this is not a business podcast in that aspect. It's just like my personal views. And that would be like, definitely call your credit card company, see if there's anything that they can switch you out of without taking the additional balance. Sometimes they'll do that if it's in a certain period where you can transfer the balance without the additional interest fee. I would call them and be nice, be friendly, and pay it down as soon as possible. I know it's not fun, but there's definitely been some like fun or fees that I've accumulated from like certain things. Like I knew that it would be an investment, and so I'd put it on like my credit card for a little bit, and then I would try and find ways to like pay it off quicker, whether that's like doing odd jobs for my family or whatever. Like just try to pay it off as soon as possible, because interest is just like an ugly bear. Like it can definitely just like stack upon, and that is not fun for anyone. So I would definitely recommend giving them a call, seeking out someone in your area who would be able to help you financially, reaching out to a parent, reaching out to a friend who you trust, but call the credit card company. It's rough. It's rough. You don't want to hinder your future self by racking up loads of credit card debt. I love the book by Ramit Sethi. It is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Currently my little sister has it. I read it when I got my first official job out of college. I read it, I set up my Roth IRA, I got a second savings account at a different bank, so then I would have to like transfer the money out, and it would like, if I wanted the little egg, I would have to like wait for the transfer. It usually took 2 to 3 days. So Ramit Sethi, I love him, and I would definitely recommend checking out his book. It taught me so much. Hey, I hope that you're enjoying today's podcast episode. Just a quick interruption to let you know that Golden Hour Drip has a weekly newsletter that comes out. This has bonus content, weekly updates, and future event information. If you haven't already, go down to the show notes, click the link, and join today. Now, back to the show. My roommate and I have different ideas with our wind down and nighttime routines. I want to settle down and read a book in the quiet, and most days during the week she'll have loudish friends over to hang out and watch TV. How do I explain I don't want people over all the time? Sincerely, bedtime at 9. Okay, when you and anybody you live with, it could be a roommate, it could be a parent, it could be a spouse, when there is the confusion or maybe just disconnect on how you want to spend your time or the values you have, it can be so difficult when you're trying to like curate your life, right? We all want that amazing special life that makes us feel fulfilled, and if that to you is bedtime at 9 o'clock and your roommate has friends and they're being noisy or watching TV or maybe just like not leaving until super late times of the evening, that can impact your sleep. And when it's impacting your sleep, it also impacts your entire rest of your day, right? Boundaries. I would absolutely set some boundaries with your roommate. Usually boundaries are set when you first sign the lease together, or at least I recommend that, because when you have clear like rules of, hey, no leaving dishes in the sink for more than 2 days, vacuum your room, you clean the bedroom down the hall, I clean the bedroom in the master, whatever, like you create rules when you first get a roommate. And if it's too late for that, I would get together with her and I would say, listen, I'm not happy. If you want me to continue living here and not subbing out my lease or getting out of the lease, I'm gonna need some boundary sets. I need to, have your friends not come over weeknights. They can come over on the weekends, or maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays they can come over. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would like to have the house quiet or whatever. I think that's completely proper and you're allowed to do that because you're also paying rent. I don't know how you guys have split the finances or, you know, which room is whose or whatever, however you split it up essentially, but you're paying rent. If you're not paying rent, then you can't say anything, like you just have to live there. But roommate dynamics can be really, really difficult. So I would try and have a little meeting, and of course there might be things that you're doing wrong too. So it would be really great for the both of you to come together. If they have any concerns, like, oh, maybe your expectation to have it quiet all the time is rubbing your roommate the wrong way. So then you guys can come together and say, you know what, okay, like I promise that on Tuesdays I'll have my friends over and Friday I'll have my friends over, and you'll have to be okay with like them coming over and being loud, and then the other days I'll be quiet. And that way you guys can compromise and work together, because ultimately there was a reason that you became roommates in the first place, and roommate relationships often die. Like you could be really, really great friends with someone and then you live together and then you're like, actually, I despise you. I can't do this anymore. It's difficult. Same goes with partners, with parents, with everything. You think you love someone until you're actually with them 24/7, or you're cleaning up after them, or you know, they have some habits that you didn't know of. It's really difficult. So to say that every friendship is going to last forever, it's not, especially if you live together and the dynamics are just not working. Maybe it's time to also consider cutting your losses. If you are a more quiet person and you want more downtime, maybe you should start looking for an apartment that is by yourself, where you don't have to have a roommate. Maybe that's looking for an apartment in an area that has lower rent rates, so then you can afford it by yourself if that's the issue. Or you can look for a different roommate, sometimes like random roommates. I don't know which city you live in, but there's so many different forums that you can check out, Facebook groups, to see if you can find a different roommate. You can always sub out your lease and see if someone else will take your lease. Maybe your roommate, who has her friends over all the time, has a friend who wants to sublease your space, and then you can find somewhere else, and then they can be together 24/7, being noisy, being loud, all the things. Another thing to consider is you could always call your like super on your apartment and be like, hey, like I have a noise complaint, and relate to your own apartment. I don't know if you could do that or not, but that's what I thought. Like sometimes with confrontation, it's not fun. Nobody wants to, I don't know, me, okay? I want to be conscientious of people's feelings, and so I try really, really hard not to upset them, whether that's like precision of language or, you know, stepping in their shoes and seeing how they would feel. But sometimes you do have to have the conflict, and I was thinking, oh gosh, like to avoid the conflict, maybe just call your landlord and be like, hey, like there's a noise complaint at 1210B. Can you, you know, tell them to quiet down or something? I don't know. Maybe that's just what my mind goes to. But roommates can be just like extra difficult, and we're all hanging in there with you. You know, I definitely like with my own dynamic, like at home, I'm married and I have 2 dogs. Sometimes, you know, I'm not going to say their name because currently they're sleeping in their beds. But if, you know, my girl dog, she loves to play with a BALL, and so she will like she would run and catch this thing 24/7. So it might be 9 p.m. and she's squeaking her ball and she's like, let's go play. And I have to tell her, I'm like, listen, it's bedtime, you know, in the morning we'll play, afternoon we'll play. So even like my dog has a roommate, like that's freaking ridiculous. Sometimes she wants to be loud and noisy and I'm ready to go to sleep, right? So dynamics can be hard. And you know, sometimes like Garrett wants to finish watching a movie, or I want to finish watching a show or whatever. And so I think just clear cut boundaries and being able to say, hey, like I hate it when you do this. Is there anything you hate that I do? Because I'll try and work on it if you try and work on you. So that is our submissions this week. If you have a question or a situation that you would love to hear on the podcast, you need a little advice, you can submit them at our Instagram at Golden Hour or via email goldenhourtrip@gmail.com. And if you like the advice I gave, great. If you thought the advice was lacking something and you had a better advice, please sound off below in the comments. I would love to hear what you would do in these situations. So I have my little cards here, and I've been stuffing these in my bag everywhere I go. So if I'm like with friends or with Garrett, like I'll pull them out. I just think it's so good not to have my cell phone constantly on me, and being able to do like a conversation card. I'm just reminded about, yes, like I've known my friends or I've known my spouse for so long and feel like I know everything about them, but there's still so much that I don't know, or even like people change, preferences change. And I just think it's so fun to play like essentially 20 questions. I know like in middle school it was like kind of cringy and like not very fun, but as an adult I think it can be really insightful to what people have to say. So the question that we have is, who was your favorite teacher growing up? I definitely loved school. I loved all of my teachers. Actually, I take that back. My 5th grade teacher, I absolutely despised. That's all. Okay. Anyways, so like I loved my teachers. My mom is a teacher, or a teacher by trade. She no longer teaches now. But she, growing up, I was always in her classrooms. I loved school. But my absolute favorite teacher was Mrs. Higginbotham. I believe I was in 2nd grade with her. She was so good. And I was so tearful. We moved out of state. And so I wasn't even going to be able to, this one we moved districts. So we moved 2 hours away. I was no. This one was out of state. Isn't it funny when you try and think back at your childhood? Sometimes like the details are so fuzzy. Miss Higginbotham was actually out of state. She was located in Georgia, and we moved to Iowa, and I was so sad when we were leaving all of my friends and we were going to cold Iowa. When we moved there, it was so cold out. It was ridiculous. Anyways, so we get there, and I just like 2nd grade was so fun for me, and we get to my new school district, and I got Miss Massman as my 3rd grade teacher, and she was also one of the very, very great teachers that I got. I remember, would read Little House on the Prairie, and she had us divide up a piece of paper, and we were allowed to draw little scenes while she was like reading the book. That way we were able to like pay attention essentially. And me always trying to do too much. Some people would like fold their piece of paper in like 4 squares. I folded mine in literally so many squares. I was like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And I was like, too intense. Like I'm always just like trying to do too much. But Miss Higginbotham and Miss Massman were truly so inspirational and impactful. I really, really enjoyed school during that time. And in high school, I definitely had some favorites. Mr. Leet was my art teacher. I think I've talked about him before, but he was absolutely one of my favorites. And having art class with him was one of my favorite times. But yeah, I think a teacher and like the positivity or the impact that they have on students is so, so important. And I guess like that's my studious teachers, but of course my parents. Like my parents have taught me so much about life and everything. So I don't know, I appreciate everyone who's taught me anything. And now even like I just finished yoga teacher training, and I feel like I learned so much from all of the teachers there, and if you take the time to listen to what people are saying, you can learn so much. And so everybody can be a teacher in that aspect, and everyone can be a student. And that's what I just love so much about life. So thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, all the things, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.